everyone, my name is VT, and today I'm here with another video on how to beat the new Colossus Stalker. So before we get into the mechanics of the boss and how to beat him, I'd like to go over a little bit of preparation for this boss fight. He's not as bad as Gluttony, but there are some things that you can do for your character to make it a little bit easier, as well as talk about the types of characters that you should be bringing to this boss fight before you even get started. So let's get into it. I used Ajax for this fight, and I took Perfect Anti-Venom and Toxic Antibody to help my toxin resistance against this boss. It was very helpful. I also made sure to take Shot Focus so that way I can be assisting in damage, but all in all, my role in this fight is not so much damaging. It's protecting the team so that way they can pump out the damage and survive from the massive AoE and the skulls and things that come out in the boss fight. So those are the two modules that I do recommend taking. A thing that we haven't really had before is the new invasion buff. So if you've been doing invasions basically this entire time, you should be somewhere, you should actually surpass where I am here, but you should at least be able to get a couple of these extra augments to buff your character to do this particular Colossus mission. I like to point out the ones that you will want to take is the high density toxic particle membrane. This will increase your toxic resistance up to 2 stacks as you aim. So if you're sitting there aiming at the boss, you'll get a little bit of extra toxic resist, as well as getting to the 4th level. So you can get the 7.2% attribute resistance buff over all of your characters. The Void Defense Optimization is a nice movement speed buff for when you're fighting the Colossus boss specifically. You also can get the removal of debuffs. Now, this one I couldn't actually see if it was activating or not in this boss fight. I can tell you this does not remove the boss mechanic, but this is just a nice thing to have. You might as well get it. And then, if you can, the incoming damage modifier pain suppression is just fantastic. So to fight this boss, honestly, our particular team that we beat it with was 2 Ajaxes, an Enzo, and a Eugen, so healing, big damage with guns, and the 2 Ajaxes to put up walls and protection against the boss's AoE mechanics, which can be pretty rough at times. So the HP pool of the Ajaxes as well really helps with the boss mechanic to be able to help revive people. So it is a really fantastic team comp that we had. There are definitely other doables that you can do. He's really not that hard as far as actual overall HP and damage. You can put a lot of damage into him very quickly, so you might be able to do some cheese builds and cheese compositions, but beware, he is still a pretty rough fight and you will have to do the mechanics at some points. So let's get into the boss itself and how to beat him. So you can only queue for Stalker after you've beaten Gluttony, of course, and he is going to be weak to electric, strong to toxic, strong to ice, and normal to fire damage. The Enduring Legacy did really well for me here on this boss. It's just basic damage. His only removable parts are the core and the back core, and during the fight I was able to break the core and mount onto the core, but this back core piece I had a really hard time even trying to get to. Fortunately, it's not like Gluttony where grappling is kind of mandatory and really needed. He's okay without being grappled. He doesn't put up that much damage, especially if you have enough Ajaxes to just make these skulls basically invalidated. So there is a high HP recommendation. I recommend more HP because this boss mechanic will cut your HP in half at intervals in the boss fight. And if you take extra damage at certain times, it will go down even farther. So it puts a hard cap on your HP, which makes it very difficult to survive his abilities. So let's get into the boss fight itself. This boss has an AoE ability that he does throughout the entire fight. It is a circular ring that centers on his body and expands out throughout a very large part of the arena, and he does this exactly when the round starts as well, so you don't want to be close to the boss when it begins, or you just want to be ready to jump over this hoop. It's kind of like the chains on the Pyromancer. If it hits you, you take damage. You take additional toxic damage over time as well, so you really want to avoid this ability. We simply avoided it for the most part by staying far away from the boss. Being far away is really helpful in this fight as that chain spawns really fast, it goes out very fast, and this boss moves very fast. So you want to try to be out of his range as much as possible. His second ability that he does all the time is these green skulls that originate from the boss. Usually 3 or 4 will center on each individual player, so you will have skulls that will track you, and skulls that will track your party members. So you want to make sure that you are killing those skulls before they get to you. They do a lot of damage. The Ajax walls, for the most part, can stand up to this. I had no issues tanking this ability with my bubbles and with my wall. It pretty much ate most of the skulls. There were some times it couldn't take an entire boss attack of all of the skulls. It did break in that instance, but it can stop several skulls. So, of course, if you have 2 Ajaxes, then you're pretty much set. You don't have to worry too much about these. Just make sure you're always behind the shielding and everything, and you should be good to go. If you do not have Ajaxes, you will not be able to use the arena to stop these skulls. They go through the floor, they go through the walls, they will get you. You will have to shoot them to get rid of them if you do not have an ability to stop them with a barrier. His third ability is the really annoying one that will half your HP. So he will do a cast where your HP will be cut in half, and the only way to remove this debuff is to stand in the clock circles that he summons around the arena, and then when you're standing in them, it will charge over time, and when that charge is complete, the clock will break, and you will remove the debuff from yourself and anyone else standing in that circle when that does happen. These clocks, you will want to make sure that you get rid of all of the clocks. If you don't, you will wipe the raid. So you have to stand in them to remove your debuff, but you have to get rid of all of them in order to not wipe. If you have the debuff and you take damage from his AoE ring or the green skulls, your HP will be debuffed even further. So it is critical to stay away from the boss, don't get hit by the ring, and kill any of the green skulls that come in your direction. These are the basic mechanics of the boss. They rinse and repeat throughout the entire thing. And then we have his invulnerable phase. During this phase, he will summon 4 gigantic pillars that have faces on them. The pillars will look at you. If there is a pillar that is not looking at you, that is the correct pillar to go stand in. If you go stand in the circle of the pillars that are looking at you, you will take damage, and they do hurt. So once one party member stands in the correct circle, it will start glowing gold, and you will have that little swirly green debuff around your character will actually start leading a trail and direct you to the correct circle to stand in if you're not already in it. This direction only shows up after someone has discovered and entered the circle, but as long as someone's in the circle, that little trail will lead you straight to it. So if you're on the other side of the map, it's a really nice indicator of which way to go. Once you discover the correct circle, the boss will start targeting players in that area with a giant green AoE circle. It's very obvious it's going to happen. All we did to really try to mitigate it from getting collateral damage is the person that would have it would try to run to the edge of the circle or even run out of the circle if they could, to just drop it away from the rest of the team. Basic raid mechanics, don't stand in stuff, guys. It does hurt, it will kill you. So once that's done and dropped off, and you go back in and you want to try to get as many people standing in the circle as possible, because the more people that stand in the circle, the faster it charges and the sooner you can get the boss out of his invulnerable phase. During this invulnerable phase, once again, he will be throwing out skulls, he will be spawning lots of ads, so you just need to make sure that you are able to kill all the skulls. Once again, the Ajaxes came in really clutch here, able to block a ton of the skulls from just mowing down the team. It will be difficult without shields because you're in such a small area, but you want to make sure that you are killing as many skulls as possible before they get to your party members. During this time, he will also spawn skulls up in the air, kind of in a line. They're like little masks. What will happen is when these hit the ground, they will launch AoE rings of toxicity. You can shoot these to make them spawn in the air, so that way you do not receive damage on the ground because they never hit you. Kill them if you can, if they're going to interfere with where you are. If not, honestly, I would just focus on making sure that you are killing the ads. Once you have charged this, the boss goes out of his invulnerable phase and to be able to carry on. The boss does have a breakable mountable part in his front chest piece. You'll have to break off the cover, and then you'll be able to mount the boss after you have gotten his core piece damaged enough. And he does have a back core piece as well. Like I said, I couldn't get to this one. This one was very hard to even try to get to break, and even harder to see. So we really only got to deal with the first chest piece. He does have breakable parts on his legs and his shoulders and his head. And that's basically all the mechanics for the boss. So rinse and repeat, and you're good to go. So thank you so much for watching the video. If you follow me as your content creator, thank you. If you are not following a content creator, please consider following me. And for those of you that have been following me for a while, please make sure that your subscription is up to date. They do expire, unfortunately. So please go to the social tab in game, find my name, ArabaVT, hashtag 9304, and click on the creator button and add me as your creator. This will help me make more videos like this in the future and support me as I get more Freyna skins. So thank you guys so much. Please consider leaving a like and comment in the section below, and look forward to my new Freyna build guide, which will hopefully be out Monday.